Document. Part 1. The year was 2147, and Earth stood on the brink of something extraordinary. For centuries, humanity had gazed at the stars, wondering if they were alone in the universe. That question was finally answered when a massive spacecraft entered Earth's orbit. The ship was unlike anything anyone had ever seen, smooth, sleek, and glowing faintly blue. It hovered silently above the planet, casting an eerie but beautiful light across the night sky. At first, no one knew what to make of it. Governments scrambled to respond, military forces went on high alert, and scientists worked around the clock to analyze the mysterious visitor. Then, just as panic began to spread, the ship transmitted a message. The words appeared on screens worldwide, written in perfect English. "We come in peace." For many, the message brought relief, but for others, it sparked fear. How could aliens know human languages? What did they really want? Conspiracy theories flooded the internet, and people argued over whether the message was genuine or a trick. Among the chaos, one person tried to remain calm, Laura Bennett, a young linguist working for NASA. Laura had always dreamed of making contact with extraterrestrial life. She spent years studying ancient languages and preparing for this very moment. When she was called to join a team tasked with communicating with the aliens, she felt both excitement and dread. The aliens, who identified themselves as the Valeth, seemed eager to talk. They sent more messages, explaining that they needed help and wanted to coexist peacefully with humanity. But not everyone shared Laura's optimism. General Eric Hayes, a hardened military leader, was suspicious. He didn't trust the Valeth's claims of peaceful intentions. "If they're so friendly, why are they scanning our cities and bases?" he demanded during a tense meeting at the Pentagon. His concerns resonated with many, including Senator Adam Monroe, a vocal critic of any engagement with the aliens. Together, they pushed for increased defense measures, arguing that humanity couldn't afford to take risks. As days passed, the situation grew more complicated. The Valeth continued their attempts to communicate, sending detailed explanations about their origins and purpose. According to them, their home planet had been destroyed by a powerful enemy, forcing them to flee across the galaxy. Now, they sought refuge and hoped to build a new life alongside humans. Laura believed their story, finding patterns in their language that suggested honesty. But her superiors dismissed her findings, convinced the aliens were hiding something. Meanwhile, ordinary people watched the unfolding drama with mixed emotions. Some saw the Valeth as saviors, offering advanced technology and knowledge. Others viewed them as invaders, waiting for the right moment to strike. In Chicago, Sarah Mitchell, a teacher, worried about her brother Jake, a soldier deployed to monitor the alien ship. "What if they attack?" she asked her husband late one night. He shook his head, unsure how to reassure her. Back at NASA, Laura worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between humans and the Valeth. She recorded every transmission, analyzed every word, and searched for clues that might ease humanity's fears. But even she couldn't ignore the growing tension. Military fleets circled the alien ship, weapons ready. Politicians debated behind closed doors, torn between curiosity and caution. Despite the uncertainty, Laura held on to hope. She believed that communication could prevent conflict. Yet deep down, she feared humanity's mistrust might lead to disaster. The Valeth had come, seeking peace, but would Earth be willing to give it a chance? Only time would tell. Document. Part 2. The Valeth's messages grew more urgent as days turned into weeks. They repeated their plea for peace, explaining that they needed safe passage to establish a temporary base on Mars. According to them, this base would allow them to prepare for an even greater threat, deadly enemy, from another part of the galaxy. Laura Bennett listened intently to every word, her heart heavy with the weight of what she was hearing. She knew the Valeth were telling the truth, but convincing others was proving nearly impossible. General Eric Hayes remained unconvinced. He argued that the alien scans of Earth's cities and military installations were proof of hostile intent. "They're gathering intelligence," he said during a heated meeting at the Pentagon. "We can't let our guard down." Senator Adam Monroe agreed, using his influence to sway public opinion against the Valeth. News outlets amplified their warnings, running headlines like, "Are the aliens planning an invasion?" Fear spread faster than facts, and soon protests erupted in cities around the world. People demanded action, shouting slogans like "Protect Earth" and "No aliens here." Laura tried to counter the growing hysteria by sharing her findings with anyone who would listen. She explained that the Valeth's scans weren't weapons, they were tools for communication, designed to understand human technology and language. But her words fell on deaf ears. Even Dr. Rachel Klein, a respected scientist working alongside Laura, struggled to convince government officials. "If we don't talk to them, we risk escalating this situation," Rachel pleaded during a private briefing. But her arguments were dismissed as naive. Amid the chaos, ordinary citizens found themselves caught between fear and curiosity. Sarah Mitchell, a schoolteacher in Chicago, spent hours watching news reports about the Valeth. Her brother Jake, a soldier stationed near the alien ship, sent her short, vague messages. "It's tense here," he wrote in one email. "No one knows what will happen next." Sarah worried constantly, wondering if her brother would be forced into a fight he didn't believe in. Things took a darker turn when leaked documents revealed secret plans to attack the Valeth. Laura stumbled upon the files late one night while reviewing classified data. The documents outlined a strategy to launch nuclear missiles at the alien ship, hoping to disable it before it could retaliate. Horrified, Laura knew she had to act. She copied the files and shared them with Daniel Carter, an investigative journalist known for exposing government corruption. Daniel promised to publish the story, but hours later, his website went offline. When Laura tried to contact him, she received no reply. The silence only deepened her unease. It became clear that powerful forces were determined to push humanity toward war. Despite the mounting pressure, the Valeth remained calm. Through their ambassador Zyler, they continued to offer solutions. They proposed sharing advanced technology, clean energy systems, medical breakthroughs, and tools to combat climate change in exchange for cooperation. But their generosity was met with suspicion. President Emily Dawson addressed the nation, calling the Valeth's offers too good to be true and warning citizens not to trust them. As tensions escalated, Laura felt increasingly isolated. Her colleagues distanced themselves, fearing association with her controversial views. Even her family urged her to stay quiet. "You're going to get yourself in trouble," her mother warned over the phone. But Laura couldn't ignore what she knew. Every instinct told her that humanity was making a terrible mistake. If the Valeth were attacked, it wouldn't end well for anyone. One evening, as she sat alone in her apartment, Laura stared out the window at the glowing alien ship, hovering above the horizon. She thought about all the missed opportunities, the chances to ask questions, to learn, to build bridges instead of barriers. The Valeth had come seeking peace, but humanity refused to listen. And now, it seemed, the path to war was inevitable. Document Part 3 Tensions reached a breaking point when disaster struck. A small drone sent by the Valeth accidentally collided with one of Earth's reconnaissance satellites. The incident happened quickly and without warning, leaving both sides scrambling to understand what had occurred. To the Valeth, it was an unfortunate mistake. Their drone had been attempting to gather data about Earth's atmosphere when its navigation system malfunctioned. But to humanity, it looked like an act of aggression. News of the collision spread rapidly, and media outlets wasted no time spinning the event into a call for action. Headlines screamed, "Aliens attack our satellites. And is this the start of an invasion?" Politicians fueled the flames, using the incident to justify their calls for military retaliation. Senator Adam Monroe, appeared on television, his face grim as he declared, "We cannot tolerate these violations of our sovereignty. The time for talk is over." His words resonated with millions, and protests erupted in cities worldwide, demanding that Earth strike back. Laura Bennett watched the chaos unfold with growing despair. She knew the collision was unintentional, but her attempts to explain this were ignored. General Eric Hayes dismissed her arguments, claiming that even accidents could be deliberate tactics. "They're testing us," he said during a closed-door meeting, "seeing how far they can push before we fight back." Laura felt powerless as the room filled with voices clamoring for war. Even Dr. Rachel Klein, who usually supported her, seemed hesitant to challenge the general's authority. In Chicago, Sarah Mitchell followed the news with a mix of anger and fear. Her brother Jake sent another brief message, this one more cryptic than the last. "Things are bad here," he wrote. "People are scared. I don't know what's going to happen." Sarah tried to stay strong for her students, but she couldn't hide her worry. During lunch breaks, she joined colleagues in heated debates about the Valith. Some believed the aliens were dangerous invaders. Others thought humanity was overreacting. Sarah didn't know what to believe anymore. Meanwhile, the Valith worked tirelessly to defuse the situation. Through Zyler, their ambassador, they issued a formal apology for the satellite collision, explaining the technical error that caused it. They even offered to repair the damage or provide compensation, but their efforts only deepened the mistrust. Critics argued that the apology was insincere, a ploy to buy time. Others accused the Valith of deliberately sabotaging Earth's defenses. The more they tried to reassure humanity, the more suspicious people became. Laura grew increasingly desperate. She decided to take matters into her own hands, sneaking into restricted areas to access classified communications between military leaders. What she found shocked her. Plans for an attack on the Valith ship were already underway. Admiral William Drake, head of Earth's fleet, had ordered the deployment of experimental plasma cannons designed to penetrate alien shields. Laura realized that if she didn't act fast, the conflict would spiral out of control. She recorded a secret conversation between General Hayes and his advisors, capturing their cold determination to strike first. Knowing the risks, Laura shared the recording with Daniel Carter, the journalist who had gone silent after his website crashed. This time, Daniel responded immediately, promising to publish the story, despite the danger. But hours later, Laura received a chilling message from him. "They know. Be careful." As paranoia tightened its grip on Earth, Laura found herself questioning everything. The Valith had come seeking peace, yet humanity's fear turned every gesture of goodwill into a reason for suspicion. Misunderstandings piled up, each one bringing the two sides closer to war. Laura stared at the glowing alien ship in the night sky, wondering how long it would be before someone made the first move on, whether anyone would listen to reason before it was too late. Document. Part 4. The Valith's patience was wearing thin. After weeks of unanswered pleas and escalating hostility, they issued a final ultimatum through their ambassador Zyler. The towering, translucent being addressed humanity in a calm but firm tone, its voice resonating across every communication channel. "We seek only refuge," Zyler explained. "Grant us safe passage to establish a temporary base on Mars. In return, we will share knowledge and technology that can benefit your species. If you refuse, we will have no choice but to defend ourselves." For many, the ultimatum felt like a threat. General Eric Hayes wasted no time using it to justify his calls for military action. "They're giving us an order now," he barked during an emergency meeting at the Pentagon. "This proves they don't respect our authority. We can't let them dictate terms." Senator Adam Monroe agreed, urging President Emily Dawson to reject the proposal outright. Within hours, the United Nations Security Council convened to discuss the matter. Despite heated debates, the decision was unanimous. Earth would deny the Valith's request. Laura Bennett watched the announcement with a sinking heart. She had hoped humanity might see reason, but instead, fear and pride drove the leaders to dig in their heels. As the news broke, protests erupted, once against some cheering the rejection, others condemning it as reckless. Laura tried one last time to argue her case, presenting evidence of the Valith's peaceful intentions to anyone who would listen. But her efforts fell flat. Even Dr. Rachel Klein advised her to step back. "You're not helping anyone by pushing this," Rachel said quietly. "They've already made up their minds." In Chicago, Sarah Mitchell followed the unfolding drama with growing dread. Her brother Jake sent another message, this one filled with frustration. "No one here trusts them," he wrote. "Even if they wanted peace, it's too late now. Everyone's ready to fight." Sarah couldn't sleep that night. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining the worst-case scenarios. What if Jake was sent into battle? What if the Valith retaliated against Earth? She felt powerless, unable to change the course of events. Despite the rejection, the Valith remained calm. Through Xyler, they reiterated their offer, explaining that their enemies, the Zarnak, were approaching fast. "If we do not prepare, both our species will suffer," Xyler warned. But humanity wasn't listening anymore. Military forces continued to mobilize under Admiral William Drake's command, preparing for what many believed was an inevitable showdown. Experimental weapons were tested around the clock, and fleets gathered near the alien ship, ready to strike. Laura knew the situation was spiraling out of control. She reached out to Daniel Carter again, hoping he could expose the truth about the Valith's plight. But when she called him, there was no answer. Frustrated and exhausted, she turned to her notes, searching for anything that might sway public opinion. That's when she stumbled upon something unexpected, a recording of a private conversation between Xyler and a scientist discussing the Zarnak. The details were vague, but one thing was clear: the Valith weren't lying. Their enemies were real, and they posed a danger far greater than anything humanity had faced before. Determined to share this new information, Laura contacted a small independent news outlet. She begged them to publish the story, knowing it might be her last chance to prevent war. To her surprise, they agreed, but only if she appeared on camera to explain everything herself. Laura hesitated. Going public would put her life at risk, but staying silent meant letting humanity march blindly toward disaster. After a long moment, she nodded. "Okay," she said softly, "I'll do it." As the days passed, tensions reached a fever pitch. The Valith waited patiently, their glowing ship hovering silently above Earth. Humanity, meanwhile, prepared for battle, fueled by fear and mistrust. Laura's interview aired late one night, catching the attention of millions. For a brief moment, it seemed like people might listen. But by morning, skeptics dismissed her claims as propaganda, and the drums of war grew louder than ever. The stage was set for conflict, and neither side seemed willing or able to back down. Document. Part 5. The first attack came on a cold, gray morning. Humanity launched its opening salvo, sending nuclear missiles hurtling toward the Valith mothership. The world watched in tense silence as the weapons streaked across the sky, their fiery trails lighting up the clouds. For a moment, it seemed like the end had arrived. But then, something extraordinary happened. The missiles disintegrated before reaching their target, vaporized by an invisible force field surrounding the alien ship. The failure stunned military leaders and civilians alike. Admiral William Drake slammed his fist on the table in frustration. "What kind of technology is this?" he demanded, his voice shaking with anger. Scientists scrambled to analyze the shield, but their instruments couldn't penetrate it. Meanwhile, General Eric Hayes insisted on trying again. "We can't just sit here and do nothing," he growled. "Hit them with everything we've got." Hours later, humanity launched a second wave of attacks, this time using experimental plasma cannons designed to bypass conventional defenses. The cannons fired beams of concentrated energy, slicing through the atmosphere with terrifying precision. When the beams struck the Valeth ship, they sizzled against the glowing shield, creating bursts of light that lit up the horizon. For a brief moment, it looked like the attack might succeed. Then, without warning, the Valeth retaliated. Their response was swift and precise. A pulse of energy erupted from the mothership, disabling Earth's fleet without causing any casualties. Ships plummeted from the sky, their systems fried, while others floated helplessly in orbit. Panic spread as people realized the full extent of the Valeth's power. Laura Bennett watched the chaos unfold from a secure bunker, her hands trembling, as she clutched a cup of coffee. She had warned everyone about this, about how fear and aggression would only lead to disaster. But no one had listened. In Chicago, Sarah Mitchell stared at the news reports in disbelief. Her brother Jake's unit had been part of the attack, and now there was no word from him. She called his phone repeatedly, but it went straight to voicemail. Desperate for answers, she turned to social media, where rumors were spreading faster than facts. Some claimed the Valeth had destroyed entire cities, others said the aliens were preparing to invade. Sarah didn't know what to believe, but she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had made a terrible mistake. Despite their overwhelming advantage, the Valeth showed remarkable restraint. Through Xyler, they issued a statement explaining that their actions were purely defensive. "We do not seek conflict," the ambassador said calmly, "but we will protect ourselves if necessary." They even offered to repair the damaged ships and return them to Earth, hoping to de-escalate the situation. Yet their gesture was met with suspicion. Senator Adam Monroe accused the Valeth of playing mind games, while President Emily Dawson urged citizens to remain vigilant. Laura felt torn between despair and determination. She knew the Valeth weren't lying, they truly wanted peace, but humanity's mistrust ran too deep. As she sat in the bunker, surrounded by frantic scientists and military personnel, she realized that someone needed to step forward and bridge the gap. If no one else would listen to reason, then she would have to find a way to make them. That night, Laura accessed classified files detailing Earth's next plan of attack. The military was developing a prototype weapon known as the Quantum Disruptor, designed to destabilize the Valeth's shields. The project was highly experimental, and many experts warned that it could backfire, potentially destroying both fleets and possibly Earth itself. Despite the risks, General Hayes authorized its construction, believing it was humanity's last hope. As Laura read through the documents, a chilling thought crossed her mind. What if the Valeth saw the weapon as a threat? Would they retaliate more forcefully this time? She couldn't let that happen. Gathering her courage, she decided to take drastic action. Sneaking out of the bunker under the cover of darkness, she made her way to the facility where the quantum disruptor was being built. If she could sabotage the weapon, or at least delay its completion, she might buy enough time for cooler heads to prevail. The streets were eerily quiet as Laura moved through the shadows, her heart pounding with every step. She knew the odds were against her, but she also knew she couldn't stand by and watch humanity destroy itself. The Valeth had come seeking peace, yet humanity refused to listen. Now, as the battle lines hardened, Laura vowed to do whatever it took to prevent further bloodshed, even if it meant risking her own life.